So we are going to start now, I'd say. Short introduction. Hello and welcome to our first Europe Jam on climate issues. I'm really happy that all of you have found their way here today or this evening. My name is Max and I'm working for Democracy International, an NGO based in Cologne. And please, first of all, be aware that we will be recording today's session and also our future archive. And so if you still want to, if you don't want to be filmed at all, please just turn off your camera or change your name. I personally think that it would be nicer if we talk directly face to face. So yeah, I would personally prefer if everyone kept their camera going. And yes, short introduction to the Europe Jams right now. The Europe Jams are a part of the European Public Sphere, a project which usually tours through through Europe. And I can shortly share my screen and show you how this usually looks like, exactly like this, more or less. We are touring through Europe and then have discussions with people from different cities, with different backgrounds. And yes, due to the pandemic, ongoing pandemic right now, we are changing our recipe a little. We are changing our recipe up a little bit, and yeah, we decided to have our talks online and especially targeted to a younger audience. Yes. As I mentioned before, we will put all the recordings in our future archive, and this future archive, out of this future archives and all the ideas that we put together today, we will then form an online exhibition which will be handed over to the European Commission as well. Yes. So I still want to give a short shout out to the Töpfer Foundation, which is responsible for financing our work here right now and is funding this project. Now, just to make sure that everybody can speak in this session, you can unmute yourself, and if you have any specific question or statement about something that has been said so far, you can use the raise hand function under participants, and then there should be on the right side, there should be a small button which you can use to, yeah, make me aware that you have something to add. Yes. Otherwise, please let the other person, let everybody else, yeah, let other persons speak and finish first, and afterwards, yeah, just add whatever you want to say. Right now, I would like to start with a short introduction round of introductions. So I see a few people who are actually who have been active in the field of climate issues, and yes, I want to start off maybe with Caroline, and just introduce yourself. Introduce why you're interested in the topic of climate change, and afterwards we will, yeah, go on with the discussion and maybe talk about your biggest concerns for the future of climate change or climate issues in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you, Max. Hi, my name is Caroline Caro. I also work for Democracy International. And if you're asking me what interests me in climate change, I think it's not really a choice. I think it's something that we have to deal with. It concerns our very existence and our lives in the future. So it's maybe the most important question that we face today. And so here at Democracy International, we work a lot at improving democracy, making it more bottom up, making it more responsive to what the people want, and helping citizens to be more involved. And so I think me in my job, I also see real possibility for us to put climate more on the agenda, because I really do believe that it is something that that citizens are very concerned about, and that often, for many different reasons, politics is less responsive to. And so this is one of the opportunities I think we have. If we make politics more democratic, that that climate change, or addressing climate change, will get higher on the political agenda. And so that's something that really interests me. So.
Thank you. Maybe if somebody else wants to start introducing themselves first. Nicola, do you want to add anything? Welcome, first of all. And yeah, if you would like to introduce yourself to the others, please raise your hand, or yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I can do that. Thank you. Yeah, hi, I'm Nicola. I actually got the invitation to come here today over the Camp for Future. And this is a project of the Bund Jugend NRW, which is like Young Friends of the Earth, Germany, but just with a German name. And yeah, I'm really interested in working against the climate change, because I think that's one of the most dramatic issues our modern society is facing right now. And I just want to like do anything that's in my hand to stop that. And I think, yeah, it's really interesting to connect to other people, because I think the power to change something lays in connecting to other people and working with others together. So it's really important to me to connect with others and, yeah, discuss about different types of activism, or how we can put ourselves out there. And yeah, with the Camp for Future, we are planning a camp every year, which is like a room for connection of young people about climate change and social injustice topics, such as feminism or any discrimination forms, or many other things. And yeah, I think connection and talking is really, really one of my biggest interests, because I can learn a lot from others. And yeah, I'm so glad I'm here today, and I'm really excited what we are talking about. And yeah, next person can join.
Who wants to take the virtual microphone and introduce themselves? Maybe Darius, do you want to introduce yourself?
I just raised my hand, so if you please look at the top of the screen. Yeah, hello, my name is Darius. I learned about this meeting via Max, a good friend of mine, and it sounded very interesting from the start. I don't have a fancy introduction like Caro and Nicola, very nice introductions for sure. I'm not that well versed in these topics, I must admit, but I do a little bit of, we say, climate justice in the Fridays for Future organization. We try to work that a little bit, and I'm doing my little part as well in like a subdivision of Fridays for Future, which is Students for Future in Cologne. And yeah, I would say it's also very interesting to me, and something which I would say gives me a lot of passion and gives me energy for other areas in my life. And yeah, I would also say it's the most important thing going on right now. Yeah.
All right, maybe I just go ahead. I'm Felix. I'm also from Cologne. I'm a friend of Darius, who talked me into this event, but it sounded interesting, so I thought I'd give it a shot. I'm not much of an activist myself, but I do realize the importance of addressing climate change, and therefore I thought it would be nice to participate, and I'm interested how it will go.
I see. Maybe Carlotta and David, if you want to introduce yourselves shortly and maybe talk about how you got into the topic as well. Please go for. Please just do it. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Carlotta and this is David. We are also friends of Darius, Felix and Max, and we got to know about this evening through Darius, and I would say we're not so much activists, maybe like Caroline and Nicola and maybe some others of you, but we're also interested in climate, and I think for us it's also very interesting to get to know about camps like you were just talking about, Nicola, which give more information for people, or also for us opportunities where we can inform ourselves. And I think that we like the idea about climate not being, or stopping climate change not being just an individual problem, but seeing it like a European and worldwide problem. And we're interested about the ideas that people bring together, how to stop the climate change and how to work worldwide. And nice to meet you. Thank you also for the opportunity tonight here to talk about everything.
Thank you for joining, the both of you. Yeah, I would just continue. How about the others? Lan, do you want to, would you like to introduce yourself shortly?
Yeah, hi. Hi, my name is Phương, and I'm not very active in the branch, but well, recently I've been going to a lot of Erasmus project and learning new things. So I saw this link on a Facebook group, so I said, like, why not use this advantage to learn something new? And thank you for inviting me.
Yes, of course. You are always welcome to join also for the upcoming talks as well, which will probably take place under the same link weekly on different topics. Yes, but today we specifically wanted to talk about climate issues because during our global forum, this was the biggest topic that came up about among the young people that joined the forum. And yes, how about, I'm not sure if Lisa and Anas are currently there, but I would invite them to, I would invite them to introduce themselves shortly as well. And afterwards, talk about specific challenges. Yes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anas. I just got an email today from Bund Jugend. I don't know if this is Caroline. Who was from Bund Jugend, Caroline or Nicola? Nicola, okay. I guess it was you. I don't know if it's somebody else, but it's like it was kind of spontaneous. I'm not that active, unfortunately, in the last couple of years because I got some family issues and I was a little bit away from the scene, and I found it was a nice chance just to keep up to date. So it was kind of spontaneous, and thank you.
Thank you for joining. Otherwise, I noticed that Anna hasn't introduced herself either yet. So please, if you want to join us.
Hi, I'm Anna. I heard mich. I am an intern at Democracy International, and for me, climate is a very important topic, political, but also for me individually, because I think connecting with other people gives me the opportunity to reflect my own behavior and how what I personally can do to improve my consume. Yeah, and I think that's a good way to connect with people and learn about new stuff. Yep.
Thank you. I'm not sure, as I said, if Lisa's there, just go for it and introduce yourself. Otherwise, I would just maybe ask the group, what would you consider the biggest challenges or the biggest upcoming challenges when it comes to climate change? I know, I understand that climate change is a rather broad topic, but what do you personally feel is a big danger to all of us? Which specific topic is it that you would like to address here? Which specific challenge that Europe needs to solve? What would you say? Yeah, if anybody would like to comment on this question, please just do it. Darius, just.
Okay, I thought we were supposed to raise our hands and then wait for you to, give me the word or like say, okay. Yeah, I don't know if anyone else just wanted to say something, but I mean, the biggest challenge right now, I would say we don't have enough time. We're way too slow on our progress to stop climate change or to bring climate justice. So that's obviously just like a very broad topic. And I think my specific favorite topic is basically the energy sector. So we need to, I don't know the English term honestly, but need to change the way we produce our energy. And I think there's a big responsibility in Europe to not also do that in Europe, but to also make cheap and good technology available for the rest of the world who might not be as fortunate and are able to afford all these expensive technologies, because there's going to be a huge amount of people who need way more energy in the next 30, 40 years. And they don't even started producing energy with coal plantations. That's still in the future. So that's going to be a major challenge, one that we can't even fathom right now. And we're nowhere prepared to do it right now. So yeah, that's like my favorite, my personal favorite topic, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that you said that, because I feel in Europe there's this sort of narrative, like especially on a political level, as if we have a choice. As if climate, it would be nice to have climate policies, but we don't have to have them. And actually, if there's one region in the world where we actually have a responsibility to do something, and we have all of the means to do something, I think it's here. And I think that's a really good point, that there are regions in the world that actually don't have that luxury to have the means and the responsibility to really make that step. And so I just wanted to say I like that point. Yeah.
on the other hand, I'm really happy that so many young people have joined the movement, and that right now I feel that this is it's probably not the first time, but the first time in a long while that there's actually some kind of pressure on those who can make decisions to actually make decisions that favor a green future, and it's also as well when it comes to energy politics as well, even though right now we're still looking for sustainable solutions in the long run. And I think there will be a lot of work that has to be put into this field of research from a research on and development standpoint. Yeah. So maybe if someone like, for example, Nicola, what would you say is the biggest challenge to you personally, or to your organization, if you think about it right now, if I may ask you that bluntly?
Yeah, I wanted to say something. So for me, the biggest challenge or the biggest issue I see is like this whole system, and like me thinking about how I can change the system that connects everything, because I don't only focus on climate change. I only focus on like how the system is built and how we discriminate and exploit other people and the nature. And yeah, I can only think about how am I going to change the system by its roots, and how am I going to tell people that they should stop striving for more what they have and more what this earth can give us and more what people can give us. And that's my issue. Like I don't know how to change it with like one person, and that's so great that we can all connect in these times and find solutions for it, because yeah, it's the mindset of this whole society and the system, capitalism, and the system that just wants everyone to have more than they could actually afford, and that this earth can actually give us. And yeah, that's also like, for example, in the Camp for Future, we had the topic this year of how we can be active and political active and change something, but also care for ourselves and be mindful with other people, and like try to be mindful with ourselves, and also how we can open rooms for everyone to participate in the climate justice movement or in other activism movements, and also how we can reconnect to the nature again, which is for me also a big point, that people connect to themselves, connect to other people, and connect to the nature again, because that's the main issue I see, that we lost our connection and we just exploit. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll raise my hand. Can I stop this again? Yes. So one problem I think is kind of difficult is that people seem to have problems with identifying themselves with a very large crowd of people. So if you try to identify yourself with all the Europeans and try to build projects where a very large amount of people work in, then things kind of get complicated and people get, again, very self-centered. And I think that it is important to actually make the people understand their own responsibility within the climate change, even though it is maybe not really measurable, the individual's effect on the climate. But as a society together, then there needs to be an understanding of the connection and that everything counts, really.
So I've got one question for you, Felix. Would you say that more direct participatory approaches would be needed to get more people into the boat as well? What do you think, how we can solve that issue you just mentioned?
That's actually a big problem, I think, because going on the streets and trying to get people into a conversation is maybe for some people something that's annoying, or no, I don't have time for that. But for example, I was approached by some, worker for some, I think it was care, and she actually got me to, donate money on a monthly basis just because of a maybe 20-minute conversation, because she had good arguments and I didn't. And so it seems to actually help to approach people in a more personal way than maybe a Facebook post, because you skim over it and it's like, yeah, no, climate change is a bad thing. Or you scroll through your Instagram feed and you see it everywhere, but it's not that close. But if you actually talk to people who have maybe more real life examples, how it actually affects everything, it maybe gets you another feeling of the closeness of the, or the importance of the problem, I think.
Yes, I would completely agree with that. I surely do. I think it's sometimes it's a little bit hard to convince people of the issues as well, because they still seem so far away, even though it's been in the media and in the minds of people for quite some time. But the impact is still lacking on the political level. And yes, hopefully movements like Fridays for Future, the Camp for Future, Extinction Rebellion can somehow change the public opinion on that, especially among older people as well. Yes. Yeah, if anybody wants to add something to that, Darius, just do it.
I mean, we're kind of like skimming the topics at the surface right now and just skipping through like lots of topics at a time. So if anyone wants to like go deeper into any subject, just maybe raise hands and do that. But what you just said made me realize this is a very interesting point, because I think it's been like 1.5 years since the Fridays movement kind of exploded and got on the radar of most of the people. And a lot of people who have been in the movement for a longer time have now reached a new level of, it's a mix of frustration, but also realism maybe. Like the first generation of the people in the group, most of them are gone. Or they are done with it. They have moved on to newer project, more radical project most of the time, or they stopped caring. And a lot of new people came, but those are like a different breed. It's more like it's a different mindset now. It's something I've observed over the last half a year, I would say. People realize this is not going to be a short-term thing. I mean, it would have been nice, of course, if we were able to change the minds of the politicians and of the general population in a span of like 2 or 3 years. But it seems that's not going to happen. So people are now getting ready for like a longer fight. I mean, we like to call it a fight, right? Because it's kind of a fight. So the new generation is going to be prepared to do this for a longer time. And it might take 10 years. It might even take 20 years. We don't know. But whenever society is ready and enough people realize we have to do something now, then the movements, not just the Fridays movement, all the movements, they're going to be there and they're going to be able to say, well, come on, join us. We have the structures intact. You can join now. You can get active today. So yeah, I think it's very important to keep it up. Don't be too focused on immediate success, because it might not happen. yeah, that's what I just popped into my mind.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. If I can just jump in here, because I think what with these issues and people who join these movements, and I'd like to hear actually what you think about that, Nicola, with Camp for Future. But you need to realize, you talked about also about systemic change, right? So changing the system, changing capitalism, changing our expectation of continuous growth, changing the laws, changing our institutions. These are not things that are going to happen in 1 year, maybe not 10 years. These are things that are going to happen over decades, right? And I think we have to look at other social movements. I think the women's movement is a great example. They've been at it for 2 centuries. So it's going to be a lot of work, and we need people to stay on it and to look at really at the details and the small fine print also. And so I was wondering if any of you have any experience with these. I think you also need to look at like small successes. Like there, here in Cologne, for example, there's this organization Radcom, and they collected signatures for better cycle paths, which is just a small part of a small part. Like, you know, better bike paths makes for better green mobility, which is a small puzzle piece of the whole climate issue. But you need people to actually, you know, to focus on this, maybe on this one puzzle piece, and then see that through. And I was just wondering if any of you maybe have any examples that you've come across of actions like this or initiatives like this that had these like small successes, but that contribute to the whole. I think you can just unmute yourself and talk, where it's not very chaotic, this meeting.
Yes, David and I have an experience with that, maybe in a very, very small way, but we turned vegan 2 years ago, and I'm vegetarian since more than 15 years. And at first I started doing that due to animal rights, and when I grew older, basically my thoughts behind that is climate and also human rights. And sometimes I think that it doesn't really matter what I eat, or maybe I thought, what could I do in climate ways or to prevent climate change without losing basically the thrive in my life, which is not, to be honest, the fight against climate change. But I was thinking, how could I improve it in my normal lifestyle? And so I turned vegan, and then we sometimes talk about that with people, and then even after a year or a couple of months, some people ask us questions about that, and they got involved more because we started talking about our changes in diet and the reasons why we did it, and brought some people through that deeper into the topic of stopping or how to prevent climate change. So yeah, maybe this is an example for that, what you just said, Caroline.
Yeah, I think that's actually a great example, because I think this is also the idea of this project that we have here, right? That talking to people actually does change something. I mean, you know, we have all learned things in our lives, and that only happens because somebody at some point told you something that made you look at things from a different point of view. So I think that's really important, and that's something that maybe with social media and this whole like political shouting culture we lose track of sometimes, that actually like you can really do change people's minds just by talking to them personally.
And something else came up to my mind now that I was talking, Max, your introducing question was what we think could maybe be one of the biggest problems concerning the climate problems. And I just said that I wanted to change something without losing my main life path. I don't know how to explain it better, but I think maybe it's also one of the biggest problems that it's still so easy not to get active. Even though that I know sources how I could inform myself better or ways where I could participate in, I still am not that active maybe as I could be. And sometimes I think it's sad that politics and economy make it so easy for me not to save climate more efficient.
But what would you say that, sorry if I interrupted you, David. I just wanted to ask Carlotta whether, what would you say would actually make you try to be more active? Like what would you, what change in your life would be necessary to say, hey,
hello everybody,
I want to participate a little bit more? Hey.
I mean, when I break it down on very small things again, that Caroline and I gave examples before, is maybe things that make it more easy for me in infrastructure too. Then, I mean, it's really, really small examples, but for example, package-free grocery shopping is way more expensive than when I go to the discounter and buy everything in plastic. My railway tickets from abroad when I studied in Poland to Germany were way more expensive and than flying, and way more uneasy. So yeah, sometimes I felt that I was forced into action that I couldn't agree with from the point of view that I would like to prevent climate change. And then in politics, I must think about what I want to say there, and I will edit later.
David, did you want to add something? I think I cut you off before, or did was that the case? Did I cut you off?
No, it didn't cut me off, but I got something else. Like to me is actually there's one other danger that might be like go against something that other activists would say, and one of the dangers that we have, in my opinion, we really have to convince a big part of the population that climate change has to be addressed. And I think one big danger is that that the part of the population or the part of the movements divide each other. So when there are lots of sections who have different ideas, different plans, different ideologies, and or have one clear path how to get to climate justice or stop climate change, like for example removing capitalism, I think that's problematic from my point of view, because can be a way to lose a big part of the population, because maybe 70% agree that you have to reduce CO2 emissions drastically, but only maybe 20% want to completely remove capitalism. And then if the movements are getting really in that direction, they could lose the population. So that's to me, that's really a danger.
Darius, please.
Yeah, that's a very interesting topic for sure. I would say it's one of the major big divides in the climate justice movement. Is system change needed? Is that what the whole movement wants? There's certainly a big part of it who is very sure that it's we have to have a system change. Otherwise, it's not gonna work. I myself am also not too sure about it. but it might be necessary. It might be smart. But I would actually disagree with David. We actually talked about this before, so this is a bit unfair for the rest of the people. But I don't think the major point right now is that people are afraid of system change, because it's not mostly it's not about we don't want capitalism. People are not longer saying we want socialism, we want communism. It's about new forms of economies who are not, we don't know them yet, and they might be very, very nice for everyone. And they don't sound as scary, because people still connect like communism with, oh my God, that's not good. That's when people get killed and stuff. But these new forms of economies, they are quite unknown and quite friendly to new people. And I would say just that in general, a lot of people are just a little bit tired of just permanently being bombarded with like social media posts and like general like old school media posts about, well, yeah, this is bad, we should all do more. If we don't do something until 2020, this is gonna happen. And it's just so tiring, and people, it's just, they feel so disconnected from the problem, because it's getting worse, and they kind of want to believe it's, I mean, most of people do believe it's real, but it's so hard to really feel the consequences. It's just from the mental point, very difficult problem for humans to connect with. So yeah, I would say that's the bigger part. Maybe in like 10 or 20 years, what David says is gonna be more relevant, but right now it's just people don't care enough, and they don't feel like it's really their problem right now. They have other problems, maybe more important problems for themselves. But sorry, I'm talking too much.
Well, I think what's maybe also well, not problematic, but maybe frustrating for some people who get approached by some guy or some girl who thinks that climate change is an important issue and is very enthusiastic about that, is that sometimes in those conversations you get the feeling that if you have ever taken a plane somewhere, you're a bad person and you've done nothing for the climate. And even though you try to do, you know, small things, that it's not enough. It's never enough. You could always do something better. You from vegetarian, you could go vegan. From driving with a car somewhere, you could drive with a tram, and then you could ride a bike or whatever, right? So at some point, if you see how much you could even do better, it's frustrating for some people to try like a little bit, and then they stop altogether and say, oh, you know what, this is too complicated for me. So sometimes I think it's important to give the people the feeling it doesn't matter how much you do, if you do something that's good, and this is maybe already something you can be proud of. And there's always room to improve, of course, but everything counts, right? So.
I'd also agree with that. I think people should still have the choice on what to do exactly, and should be rather encouraged to change. So often there's talk about like prohibiting certain things, and I think the change should start right on the personal level, like on the lowest level possible. And if somebody would like to change something, first start with your own life, and then like incrementally increase this sphere of influence to other fields of your life. Yes. Nicola, do you want to add something about that? Sorry.
Yeah, I just forgot my point.
Oh no, sorry.
I will think about it again.
Okay. I see that Andrea joined before. Andrea, are you there?
Yes, I'm there, but I don't know what to say now.
So right now we are talking about just shortly.
Climate change, right?
Yeah, we're talking about climate issues right now, and maybe if you would like to introduce yourself and want to tell us would you think is the biggest challenge about climate change right now, or in Europe? What is the biggest issue to you personally?
Yeah, and first of all, I'm introduce myself, and I'm Andreea, I came from Romania, and I think is more security of Europe, something like that. I don't know. First of all, and second part of a politics of combining the COVID-19, yeah, and the principal subject of politics of Europe. I don't know. Yeah, because all the country of Europe is focused of COVID-19 and future view prepare for a second part of COVID-19. And first example in my country is it's very most people infected. I don't know, maybe, yeah, something like that.
Thank you. What would you say is if you think that COVID-19 has changed a lot of things also in regard to climate?
The COVID-19, the change of the world, the change of the person, the change of politics, the life, personal, and all of us, society, it's change.
Yeah, I think so too. And this also entails a lot of, yeah, also comes back to the climate issue as well, because at one point we saw that life can actually go on without actually flying as much as we did before. And people change their habits if they are forced to change their habits. And not top down, but also, I mean, COVID-19 has been a catastrophe to most economies, or almost all economies worldwide.
Actually, the COVID-19 in the most danger of the terrorists, for example. Yeah. Security, yes. Though the terrorists of COVID-19, the most danger of ISIS. Yeah, right.
You can agree that we can all agree that it's really dangerous, and people will die, of course. But what I want to would like to add to what you just said is maybe it's a crisis that we can't really do much against right now, that changes people's opinion on how to live their life. And I think the climate crisis is a similar crisis as well. And right now there's still, we still see a divergence on climate crisis on the one hand, on how people deal with climate crisis on the one hand, and COVID-19 on the other hand. Even if you just have a look, if you just look into the media right now, it's all about COVID-19, while or mostly about COVID-19, while the climate crisis is a big issue, important issue that we need to solve in itself as well.
Yeah.
Carol?
I even think it's not completely unrelated, you know, because the COVID-19 crisis, it started from, you know, it's also an environmental crisis. It started with some guy who went to get a pangolin animal and stuffed it in a cage in a market with, you know, bats and whatever. So it started from a deep disrespect for the environment to begin with, and so it's. In a way, it's almost a symptom of the bigger environmental crisis and then the degradation that we are living through. So I don't think you can see them as completely unrelated, but that's a side note. I think the other thing is that we see that it has affected everything. It has affected how we work. It has affected our politics. It has affected how we travel, how we produce things. So it is possible to make far-reaching changes to combat the crisis, and not all of the changes that and all of the policies that were made are actually effective, or some. I mean, some policies I can barely see the relation between. How is this supposed to actually alleviate the pandemic? How is this supposed to help people? So politicians are willing to act tough to address a crisis, just apparently not the climate crisis. And so it's I think it's also a question, how do we, is it a framing question? I don't know why that is, why people are seemingly incapable or unwilling to accept that, you know, that we are living through a climate crisis, that people actually do die already because of the climate crisis today, and that we caused it. So since we caused it, we are also able to do something about it. And I don't know what it is about this issue that makes it so hard to get that in people's heads somehow.
Yeah, maybe I can jump in here with my thoughts earlier, because what was said is how, or like, I'm always wondering why people feel so disconnected to the world, and why they don't see that everything we do today is affecting people elsewhere on Earth, or everything we do in the COVID-19 crisis is affecting someone. And like, why are we so disconnected to the other people and to the nature or our planet and what we do to it? And I feel like, to come back to the question earlier, I feel like I really need people, or like I really need to empower people to reconnect to themselves again, and like reconnect to their needs, and then find out how they can put themselves into this world on an individual base. Because like what you guys all said was sometimes like a fear of not doing enough and like not doing the right things, but I think everyone is doing their right thing on their own right way, if you get it. Because I don't know, what society today tells us is basically we all have to do the same. We all have to work and like do everything to be productive, or like to have a worth for this society. And we need to like switch this to individuality, and to have this connection again, and like feel it. And that's what I feel like is really important for people to understand, that we are connected to each other and connected to this planet, and that we can also in this connection be our individual selves, and everyone has an impact what our life on Earth is like, and everyone can do something in their own way to change it. And what's important is that we connect to each other, and that we create like rooms where you can live in just and sustainable. And even if it's just like a project, a really small project about food waste or something, it's still like, if everyone would like create a project and connect to 5 other people, that's so much of an impact. And yeah, that's really important to me. And again, I'm really happy to connect to other people. And I always find like this, oh, if you don't do this or that, you're not an activist, or you're not like living a sustainable lifestyle, or you're not good enough. But this is a problem, that we always tell people what they should do, and that we always tell people we all have to do the same, and we all have to not fly anymore and go vegan and do this or that. But everyone has his own strategy, and everyone can change something in their behavior, starting with themselves, and then go out in this world and like connect to other people. Or I don't know. Yeah, that's what I just wanted to share. I don't know if it fits in right here, but yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I had also something to say, and there was something Caroline said, because the question was why do so many people have a problem with actually identifying the fact that there is a threat. I think that's because people struggle to have or to feel threatened by something that is not an immediate risk. It's like why people smoke. I mean, it can give you cancer, but that is like the probability is low, and maybe also in a like distant future. And so I think it's more to, so the idea would be to help people see that even though we ourselves might not die of climate change, in our lifetime, people in other areas of the world will. Like, it's not that our grandchildren will live in an uninhabitable planet, more or less, but that even like in 10, 20 years, the people who die from climate change will be maybe not in Europe, but in other parts of the world. And that this is something we need to address. Because we in Europe are probably the least people to actually feel the most negative effects of climate change.
Yeah, just a short, it's a funny, no, it's not funny actually, but an anecdote. I am from Flanders, from Belgium. And so there was a study just a couple of weeks ago that by 2030, so in 10 years, there's I think it was 80 or 90% risk of the area where I grew up, which is very far from the seaside, that it will be flooded if we don't take additional infrastructure measures. So I forwarded this article and this very well done study to my parents. It's like, you know, you better vote for some green parties because your house is going to be flooded in 10 years. You know, they're not old enough that this would not be a worry for them. And they laughed at me, you know, it's like you're a doomsday thinker with your bad news, our house is going to flood. Yeah. But the thing is, like, it will. I mean, if we don't do something now, this will happen. And so this is, yeah, just something I thought of. So for the case of Flanders, there are real consequences very soon that people are somehow not taking into account.
Darius, yeah.
Yeah, you just gave me an idea. What could also share, also an anecdote. We just recently had like a small bike trip with like 50 people from Cologne to Berlin. It was like it was a climate thing for sure. It was a demonstration all the time. So like in every small city, we did like small, how do you say that? I mean, like small demonstrations, and like we were constantly like shouting, like on the streets and stuff. But it was also a bike tour. Anyway, we had a lot of interaction with local farmers, and something which I mean, of course, you kind of know that even Germany is going to be impacted by climate change, but it's so far away, and you're never really in touch with it because you live in the city. You're not going to see it. Maybe you're going to see that the river, which is in your big city, has less water, and that's like, okay, that's not nice. But we actually talked to the farmers, and they like hour-long talks, and they showed us the fears. They showed us the immediate impact. And they feel the impact right now already, and it's going to get so much worse. So you just have to take your time and look for the things, and you can find them even right now. It's just that I guess probably not everybody wants to do that, which is understandable. Like, do you want to go to the countryside and talk to farmers? That's not very. I mean, it kind of gives you a feeling of guilt, right? If you don't do something after knowing that, you feel guilty. So maybe it's not the easiest thing to do, but it would be possible.
I think right now we're in comparatively good position here in Europe when it comes to the impacts of climate change. Not on every level, just as you just said before, Darius. But I think sooner or later, everyone will be affected. Like, the whole society will be affected by the problems that climate change brings. And if we're only talking about, for example, about migration, this might be a topic next week as well. Climate migration, people from the Sahel zone in south of the Sahara Desert, and they are right now they are heavily endangered, and they are trying to find ways to live in livable conditions. I'm not even saying better conditions, but I'm talking about livable conditions, and these issues will actually grow by time, and will get worse and worse, and will also directly impact how we do politics here and how we structure our life here as well. Yes, so migration crisis, food crisis, and all other stuff that comes with these issues. Yes. If somebody, I think some people didn't really say that much yet. I want to give all of you the possibility to join our talks and share your views, maybe your fears about climate change and climate issues as well. So maybe Phong, if you want to add something, what would you say to you personally? What is your biggest fear about climate change currently?
For me, I think the biggest problem in climate change are the people, the mentality. People are like selfish, right? Selfish beings who always want to live in comfort, and the comfort we've been given throughout the history, we've gotten used to it, and because of that, we don't want to change. And I also have to add that some people don't have, the chance to go to help the climate change, because some of the options, like to go vegan or to be more sustainable or to buy products from farmers markets, they are very expensive, and some people don't have that kind of like luxury. So like the biggest problem, I think, are the people. And I guess like to change that, I don't remember who said it, but yeah, like Felix said that he got into the climate change because somebody on the street approached him. I think that like for me personally, I wouldn't like be up for a discussion with a stranger on the street, but I think the best way how to motivate people, because people are always like greedy, they want something in return. So the best possible way for me, I guess, is to motivate people with money or like any kind of like advantages from the state, like change the taxes or change the law or like do something else, because otherwise people are not gonna change.
That's actually a really good point. So if you had the power to actually change things by, for example, let's say, for example, in the UK, they have UK climate assemblies where citizens are randomly chosen, and they are briefed by experts on the specific topics. And afterwards, all these citizens, I think in the UK Climate Assembly, there were altogether 100 citizens from all walks of life. And they were chosen randomly. And then they worked on specific recommendations that have been presented to the members of the parliament as well. And lots of the MPs in the UK actually promised that they will work on these issues, on these recommendations, adopt these recommendations, would you consider that a viable option for the future as well, if you had the choice, or would you take part in such an assembly as well, if you were given the chance to do it? I would just put it into this question to all of you. Just answer it if you would like, if you want to.
Can you rephrase it?
Would you be interested in, for example, joining a climate assembly such as the one I mentioned in the UK, if you were randomly chosen? And do you think that this climate assembly like this might have a bigger impact in Germany as well? Darius, Felix, whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, I mean, I could say something, but please go ahead if anyone wants to say something who maybe didn't talk as much or something. Okay, Felix, you want to start?
Yeah, maybe it's just a small thing. So, of course, I would participate, but it's I don't know, kind of frustrating to see that it's all about talking and getting together and talk about climate. It's like the threat is so immediate, basically, that I mean, we can all sit together and talk about climate and how difficult it is to save it, but it's more important to, you know, take action. And so I think the more important thing would be to actually, I don't know, address the politicians and try to find a way that, I mean, of course they want to remain in power, and doing things for the climate is not necessarily a boost on the economics, but I mean, that's the more immediate, or like the more necessary steps to take, I think. So, I mean, I would participate to answer your question, but I would be very frustrated in doing so, I guess.
Yeah, good point, actually. I would definitely participate as well, because I don't see myself ever going into like true politics. Like activism is as far as I can go, because I couldn't talk to politicians all the time. It would drive me crazy probably, and I would certainly lose my passion, or whatever passion is remaining at that point. But yeah, such an assembly, I mean, I think that sounds like a good thing, and would maybe shift the culture of politics a little bit in the right direction. So I would be all for that, actually.
I just want to add something to that. I'm not very familiar with the English example. I know that they exist, but I haven't really looked at it in detail. I know that in France, they had a citizens' assembly on the climate that ended in June or July this year. And it was the same. So it was 150 citizens who were randomly selected, and they made sure that they represented the whole of society, so that they came from enough different places, that there's the right amount of women and men, that they're from all age groups, all professional categories, so that they're really representative of all French citizens. And the goal going in, and I think this is the difference, I think what they're not doing in the UK, President Macron had said the goal is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions with 40%. We are going to do this, but you get to decide how we do it, basically. And so these 150 citizens who really basically were just called randomly by somebody out of the blue and asked if they wanted to do this, then met over the course of 9 weekends, I think, and really like elaborated laws. And they got to decide also if they wanted those laws to be implemented directly, if they wanted them to be put to the parliament, or if they wanted all French citizens to vote on them in a referendum. And so in this case, they actually decided to put them to the parliament. And so there's of course now a small risk, I would say, because I think it would be political suicide at this point to not adopt these laws after there's been so much to do about it. Yeah, so the thing is, these are binding measures that were taken by citizens. So this is not just talking. What happened there? I think that I thought that was a really positive example of something that we can do. And I was a bit disappointed because the citizens themselves, they decided to put everything to the parliament. They could have decided to put everything to a referendum, and then everybody gets to decide. And I would have been really interested to see what happens there. But yeah, I like these binding tools that make it that really fix politics and also on what was discussed.
If no one wants to say something, I would just quickly to what you just said. What do you mean when you say binding? Does binding mean they have to do it in 20 years, or like what's the time frame we're talking about here?
The goal was 2030, so 40% emissions reduction by 2030. And these citizens, they came up with 150 measures, and they set their own time frames. So they were informed, like Max said, by experts who said, if we don't do something about this by then basically we're screwed. And so they said, okay, so we want an overhaul of public transport in all of France by, I don't know, 2025. I'm making things up, but these kind of measures. So it's really specific legal proposals what they came up with timeframes.
Has it been cleared up a little bit? I think there are lots of initiatives that focus on like direct democracy that actually that comes from the citizens to enable or influence the change or political system in a way that more change towards a greener future can be made. And yes, I think I'm really curious about how these will develop in different countries. I'm not sure, Caro, are you familiar with the Fridays for Future ECI right now, the Citizens Initiative?
Just very vaguely. So I don't know if everybody knows what an ECI is. Maybe I start with that. So it's a European Citizens Initiative that basically means that any citizen who has the right to vote, so usually who's over 18, in the European Union can say, I start to collect, you need 1 million signatures in at least 7 member states. So it is of course not something that you could do. You need the support of organizations and other people to do this. But if you collect 1 million signatures in at least 7 European Union member states, and you need to have a specific proposal, then the European Commission needs to take that proposal into account, and this needs to be debated in the European Parliament. So this is not binding. So I think this is the difference with, for example, some other tools, like because of course there's always the risk that if you put your initiative to the Commission, that they say, we're actually not interested in doing anything about that right now. But it's a good tool to set something on the agenda, especially if you think it's missing in European politics. And Fridays for Future actually has an ECI running right now. And I believe they want, I think it's 65% greenhouse gas emission reduction by, I don't want to lie, but I'm looking up the link. So there are these combinations, you know, these movements that did a lot of activism that are now also looking at, okay, what tools are out there and what can we use to actually force politics to take action. And this is one of them. I know that in Austria, Extinction Rebellion is now also asking for a citizens assembly, so the same thing as in France. So there's a lot of tools out there, and there's ways to, you know, I mean, of course you can protest and you go on the street, but there's also ways out there to actually force politics to do something about it. And I think that's a really interesting next step.
Yeah, thank you. I think that clears the ECI topic a little bit up for everyone. Yes, do you, Caro just posted the link in the chat, so feel free to, yeah, go into detail there and just look it up. I just wanted to ask whether you, if there's anything that's still on your mind in regard to climate issues that you would want to talk about. Otherwise, right now it's we still got 15 minutes approximately to go, and yeah, so that everyone has talked about or mentioned their specific issues that they want to talk about. Otherwise, I would, yeah, Felix, sorry.
Well, I think that what really is difficult in finding measures which actually work and do have an impact to maintain a just system around the society. Because if you say, okay, we want to make people eat less meat, and we do that in putting taxes on that, that is for, I mean, the rich people is not that big of a deal because they can buy basically enough, or they can afford paying more for that. But the little guy, more or less, is is way more affected by, for example, that tax approach in doing something. So all in all, I think this needs to be addressed. And I mean, the poorer, I hope that's not offensive, part of the society is not forgotten over all that.
Yeah, I think in this context, I think it's also always important to not just like punish people for doing the wrong thing, but to help them to do the right thing. For example, like if you make it more difficult to go by car to the city, you have to give people an alternative, easy way to go by train. And for example, if you're talking about taxes on CO2 emissions, in my opinion, for example, you always have to think together with the universal basic income or something like that. So you are redistributing the money you pay in taxes to the people. So in the end, people who are rich, who consume more, are net negative with the tax, and people who are poor and don't consume as much are net positive, even if they eat a little bit of meat. So you always have to think these things together to also to not like lose the acceptance of the population, because at the end, usually for the drastic changes that you need to address climate change, you need like way more than 50% of the population to support your measures. So yeah, you always have to think these things together to not lose support in the general public.
Yes, maybe I would like to invite Nicola to maybe tell us about how you can actually make the youth participate a little bit more, and to reach that 50% of the in order to reach these 50% of the population, you need to reach the youth as well. And yeah, Nicola, can you share your experiences about that with us?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Yeah, in my experience, I think like what motivates people is, again, connecting to others and like working on projects together and not being the only one in the world who wants to change something, but like share experiences and struggles with others. And yeah, maybe to come back to the for future, I see it there that many people are motivated to be on a camp, whether it's a climate camp or like a camp or like a room in general where you can meet like-minded people, and that really motivates people to act furthermore and to bring change in their own life and in life of others. And yeah, I think we need more rooms and more talking to other people, and thinking of different perspectives, not only thinking about ourselves and how we can be active, but also helping others to get active and helping others to change something, and yeah, be all together in this. I think that's the main thing I want to say.
Thank you. Darius, please.
I don't know if you like want to do some closing statement, but yeah, like those last few points, I think maybe we didn't talk as much about like there's certain privilege to being able to be in like climate activism organizations. It's a common critique point, and it's a fair point. Like it's a very white, it's a very cis organization most of the time. So it's also a point that I think most of the groups are working on. How can we extend like our range? It sounds so professional, but how can we reach out to communities, maybe migrant communities, or just communities which don't have the same privilege? Maybe they don't have two like well-off parents, let's say it like that, who can support them while they're studying or whatever. So yeah, that's a big topic, and I think it's very relevant if we actually want to have more people in the whole movement. We can't just expect that everybody does it on their own. What about the people who have other worries, who need to work 2 jobs or whatever besides their studies, or maybe they don't even study, and they really don't have the power, the energy to know also, spend like 5 hours a week on some climate activism. So we should reach out to these communities and find a way that we can still connect and work together, because I mean, in the end, we all need each other in this fight, and the sooner we start, the better, I would say.
I think in regard to content, this is a better closing statement than I could have ever given to you or presented to you. Yes, I want to just shortly want to raise awareness that we're having these talks weekly, and I think all of you right now. I will just post my email address in the chat as well, because we are still open for topic suggestions as well. The next 2 talks will be about minority and migratory experiences next Tuesday, and the Tuesday on the 27th will be about the broad topic of democracy and participation. And yes, I really invite you to join there as well. I love the inputs all of you gave today, and yes, always feel free to join. If you don't have time, join the next session. Yeah, feel free to do it. Yes, other than that, thank you for coming today. And I'm not sure, Caro, do you also want to add something other than that? Yeah, have a nice evening.
I would also say have a nice evening. Thank you. It was really, really interesting hearing from all of you. And yeah, definitely join us next week as well.
All right. Thank you all. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.